Throughout your lifetime, every gallon of gasoline and any product of petroleum has, in a subtle way, preserved the value of your savings. This preservation has not occurred because of the oil itself, but due to the support for it. The difficult truth is that for over half a century, the strength of the US dollar on the world stage has been supported by oil, not gold. This has been a tacit understanding, a contract between the largest purchasers of oil and the largest oil-producing nations. And this arrangement is currently breaking down. The current conflict in the Middle East, with missiles, the changes to shipping routes for oil tankers, and the resulting quick increases in oil prices, are leading many to discuss the idea of de-dollarization, which previously seemed rather far-fetched. But how can a war in a specific part of the world determine the price of gasoline for people in the United States, or even if the dollar will continue to be the world's main currency? Oil is much more than a basic product. It is essential to the operation of the global economy. For many years, all oil transactions have been carried out in dollars. To understand the importance of this, we must look back to 1973. At that time, the United States had spent a great deal of money during the Vietnam War and had a serious problem with increasing prices. President Nixon had just removed the dollar's relationship to gold. With the gold standard discontinued, the dollar was now faith-based, its value dependent on confidence in the US government. As a result, Washington approached Saudi Arabia with an agreement. Saudi Arabia would sell its oil exclusively for US dollars, and the United States would provide Saudi Arabia with security, military equipment, and political support. Saudi Arabia accepted this proposition, and the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries soon followed suit. Consequently, any nation needing oil had to obtain US dollars first. To acquire these dollars, a country was required to do business with or make investments in the United States. In this way, the petrodollar was created. Oil took the place of gold as the foundation of the dollar's dominance in international trade. This is the process. A country wants to buy oil. The seller will only accept dollars. That country then purchases dollars and uses them to pay for the oil. The money from these sales goes to countries that sell oil. These countries then invest that money back into financial instruments and properties in the United States, including treasury bonds, the stock market, and real estate. This process is ongoing. This global need for dollars makes the American currency more valuable and maintains low interest rates. As a result, the United States can continuously obtain loans and appear financially secure. This is an excellent arrangement, but it is dependent on the world being willing to use only dollars for transactions. This is currently changing. China is purchasing oil from Saudi Arabia and Russia with their currency, the yuan, while India uses rupees to trade with Iran. Russia's allies are buying its oil in rubles. New digital currencies are allowing nations to avoid the dollar altogether. With each of these adjustments, the system established around 50 years ago is becoming less solid, and from this instability, disagreements will arise. The Middle East, formerly the base for America's oil agreements, has undergone a transformation. Saudi Arabia is negotiating agreements with China. Iran is growing its power after being without allies, and Israel's military conflicts are making the area more unstable. When oil fields are threatened by military attacks, certainty declines. Specifically, assurance of a continuous oil supply and assurance that dollars will be able to purchase it. This assurance is what maintains the petrodollar system. There is a calculation that people are reluctant to discuss. Should the main oil-exporting nations begin to accept several different currencies, the demand for dollars will decrease. Even a 10% decrease would mean higher costs for the United States to borrow money, a weaker dollar, and more expensive goods from other countries. For many years, the US has had access to a large amount of credit at a low price. But this benefit depends on the dollar remaining the world's currency for energy purchases. Currently, approximately 60% of the world's reserves are in dollars, a decrease from 73% in 1991. This isn't a sudden breakdown, but a gradual weakening. And such erosion isn't apparent until the inevitable happens. If oil transactions were no longer conducted in dollars starting tomorrow, in what would you have confidence to hold your money? The Chinese yuan, gold, cryptocurrency, or something else entirely? Please share your opinions. If you are someone who would like to understand these obscured systems before they are widely reported, continue to follow this channel. You will be informed of developments that others will not perceive until it is too late. The irony is this. For many years, the United States has used its relationship with oil to create a sense of stability, by protecting shipping lanes, providing weapons to allies, and deploying military personnel throughout the Middle East. However, this ongoing involvement is now frightening the very nations it once reassured. The more the United States works to confirm its power, the more quickly others are moving away from the dollar. China proposes negotiations and, simultaneously, contracts based on the yuan. Russia offers trade that will not be affected by sanctions. Saudi Arabia is establishing agreements with both countries. The system the United States created is now also benefiting its competitors. It is as if a magician is observing others successfully performing a trick the magician invented and doing it with more skill. Will the conflict in the Middle East lessen the dollar's value? In the immediate future, a situation of disorder frequently strengthens the dollar, as investors will still turn to it as a safe option. Over time, however, each crisis drives more countries to look for alternatives. Eventually, this network of trust, the element that makes the dollar the most important currency, could disappear with little attention. Empires seldom end with military defeat. Instead, they decline, as is shown in financial statements, in agreements, and in new methods of payment which render the older ones useless. The petrodollar will not disappear at once, but each oil transaction completed in another currency is a weakness in its defenses. Therefore, the critical issue is not the possibility of a system collapse. Instead, it is, what will be the outcome when the rest of the world has no further requirement for US dollars, but the United States still requires the world to use them? The next global reserve currency may not be from the United States. It may not even be from a single country. It may be a digital currency, free from political influence and control. At that point, the world will not only cease using dollars for trade, but will stop conceiving of value in terms of them. And that will be the most silent revolution the world has ever known.